Pittsburgh, what is going on right now? This is one of those days where you almost don't even want to open your phone, because every notification just keeps getting worse. We have a major, honestly, pretty heartbreaking update involving DK Metcalf and the Pittsburgh Steelers that has left a lot of fans absolutely stunned, confused, and yeah, kind of gutted. So in this video, we're going to break down exactly what happened, why DK Metcalf's name has been so heavily tied to the Steelers recently, what this latest sad update really means for Mike Tomlin, for this locker room, and for the future of this offense, and how Steelers Nation is reacting right now in real time. And we're going to keep it all the way honest, no sugarcoating, because this one hurts if you were excited about the idea of DK in black and gold. Before we get into the painful part, let's rewind just a little bit so this makes sense in context. Over the last few weeks and months, there's been this constant drumbeat around the league, around insiders, and especially around social media, connecting DK Metcalf to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that wasn't coming out of nowhere. You have a Steelers team clearly in transition on offense, trying to figure out who their true WR1 is going to be long-term, trying to figure out how to actually scare defenses again, and then you have DK Metcalf over in Seattle, with everyone questioning whether the Seahawks are really committed to a long rebuild or if they're going to quietly reset the roster and recoup draft picks. That's how the smoke started. Report after report, segment after segment, fans on X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube comments, DK to the Steelers, make it happen. This is the guy we need. This is the move to put us over the top. There were mock trades drawn up, contract structures debated, people photoshopping DK in a Steelers jersey, running routes in black and gold, standing next to Mike Tomlin on the sideline, high-fiving George Pickens in the end zone at Acrisure Stadium. It went from being a simple rumor to something a lot of fans had emotionally invested in. So here's where the sad part comes in. The update that just came out has slammed the brakes on all of that fantasy in a really harsh way. Multiple league sources and local insiders are now consistently reporting that, barring something completely insane, DK Metcalf is not coming to Pittsburgh. The Steelers' front office has internally cooled on the idea of paying the price it would take to land him, and the Seahawks have essentially communicated that they're not in any rush to move off of their star receiver. But that's only the surface level. When we say sad update, it's not just trade rumor dies, move on. It's the way it unfolded, the expectations that were built up, and the deeper meaning behind what this says about where this franchise is mentally on the offensive side of the ball. A lot of reports had suggested that the Steelers had at least inquired, that they had done some homework on DK, checked the temperature on what a deal might look like. And when that kind of information gets out, fans' imaginations go wild, especially in a city like Pittsburgh where the standard is the standard, and people are hungry to get back to truly contending. DK Metcalf is the kind of physical specimen that doesn't become available very often. 6'4", basically a sprinter in a linebacker's body, red zone monster, deep ball threat, run after catch problem. Put that next to a young quarterback who needs a security blanket and a defense that already plays championship caliber football. It's understandable that fans started seeing visions of a legit AFC threat again. So to now hear that, internally, the Steelers have pulled back, that the interest has cooled, and that the Seahawks are effectively shutting the door unless some team throws them a monster, desperate offer. That's where the sadness kicks in. It's the feeling of, here we go again, another big-time offensive weapon that Pittsburgh is connected to, only for the idea to die in the negotiation room. And it's not just that the Steelers won't get DK, it's also the emerging details about why this isn't happening. From what's being reported, there are a couple of major factors. First, the asking price. Seattle, understandably, is not going to give away a player like Metcalf for cheap. They know what they have. A 1,000-yard caliber receiver in his prime, a guy who can tilt coverages and open things up for everyone else on the field. Early whispers were that it might take a first-round pick plus additional premium assets. For a front office like Pittsburgh's, that is not a small decision. This is an organization that values draft capital like gold. Their identity is built on drafting, developing, and extending Steelers-type players, not going all in on splashy trades that mortgage the future. And that leads us to the second factor, the contract. DK is not playing on some rookie bargain deal anymore. You're not just trading picks, you're trading picks and then immediately turning around and committing massive money to one player at a premium position. That means less flexibility for extensions for your own guys, less room to maneuver when injuries hit, less ability to patch holes at other positions like the offensive line or the secondary. So when you combine the Seahawks price tag with the financial reality of what it would take to keep DK here long term, people inside that Steelers building started to do the math and ask, is this worth it? Is this really the move that aligns with who we are? And the sad truth, at least from the perspective of fans who wanted to see a bold swing, is that the answer seems to be no. Now, from a cold, logical front office perspective, you can understand it. You can talk yourself into why it makes sense not to roll the dice, to protect draft capital, to trust your scouting department, to build slowly and steadily. But from a fan's perspective, from a locker room perspective, from the energy of the city, it hits different. Fans are tired of almost. Tired of we were in the mix. Tired of we called, we checked in, but we didn't pull the trigger. When you see teams around the league going and getting big-name receivers for their young quarterbacks, when you see contenders making aggressive moves to get over the hump, it's natural to feel a little deflated when your team backs away from a player like DK Metcalf. Let's talk about the emotional piece for a second, because that really is what's behind this word stunned. Over the past couple of days, you had some national personalities strongly hinting that the Steelers were one of the mystery teams keeping tabs on Metcalf's situation. You had social media sleuths tracking every little thing. DK liking posts about the Steelers, people overanalyzing offhand comments, even reading into his body language in press conferences, wondering if he seemed frustrated in Seattle. This entire mini-saga had built up into a moment where a lot of people emotionally pre-committed to the possibility. They started visualizing him in this offense. They imagined those 3rd and 8 contested catches, those back shoulder fades on the sideline with the terrible towels waving in the background, that deep shot down the right sideline with DK just humiliating some poor corner and then flexing in the end zone. When fans start living in that fantasy, and then the reality comes out that your team is basically stepping away from the table, it feels like a relationship breakup that never even officially started. You're sitting there thinking, we could have had something special, even if, in reality, the odds were always stacked against it. And then there's the DK side of this. Another layer to this sad update is the realization that, at least for now, DK Metcalf himself doesn't look to be pushing his way out of Seattle in some desperate public way. He hasn't gone on a media tour demanding a trade. He's not out here burning bridges in the Pacific Northwest. For all the speculation that he might want a fresh start, that he might want a new system, a new quarterback, a bigger market energy, what we're actually seeing is a guy who, at least outwardly, is trying to handle things professionally. So that means the pressure on Seattle to move him isn't sky high. That's another gut punch for Steelers fans, because we all know, when a star player really wants out, when he goes nuclear and makes it ugly, front offices start scrambling and the price sometimes drops. But in this case, with DK seemingly willing to ride it out and Seattle content to let things play out on their terms, the leverage all stays on their side. Pittsburgh, being who they are as an organization, is not going to beg, they're not going to overpay wildly, and they're not going to insert themselves into a bidding war that doesn't fit their values. So what you get is this situation where the window you thought was open might never have actually been that wide to begin with. It's like walking up to a door you thought was unlocked and pushing, only to realize it was dead-bolted the whole time. Let's talk about Mike Tomlin and all of this, because you know his name was coming up behind the scenes. Tomlin is the kind of coach that players like DK respect. He's a player's coach, he commands a room, he's been through every type of NFL drama you can imagine. There's no question in my mind that if DK Metcalf ever set foot in that Steelers facility as a member of the team, he'd instantly vibe with Tomlin's energy. That's part of why this idea was so appealing. Fans were picturing Tomlin putting his arm around DK on the sideline, firing him up, using him in creative ways, building an offense around this physically dominant receiver. But the Steelers are not a team where the coach just walks into the GM's office and says, "Get me that guy at any cost." This is a collaborative organization. Tomlin can say he likes a player, but Omar Khan and the front office still have to weigh the long-term implications, the cap hits, the locker room dynamics, the draft board reshuffling. And according to the reports coming out right now, those internal debates seem to have ended with the Steelers deciding not to push their chips in the middle for DK Metcalf. That's not a shot at Tomlin, that's just the reality of how Pittsburgh operates. The sad part is that, from a pure football standpoint, the fit made so much sense. Picture DK Metcalf alongside George Pickens, two physically dominant outside receivers, both capable of winning contested catches, stretching the field, demanding safety help over the top. Defenses would have been forced into impossible choices. Do you commit resources to stopping the deep ball and leave room underneath for the run game and tight ends? Or do you roll coverage and risk getting bullied at the line of scrimmage by two absolute alphas on the perimeter? It could have been a matchup nightmare. You add in the fact that the Steelers haven't had that truly terrifying, nationally feared receiving duo since the peak days of Antonio Brown and a young Juju Smith-Schuster, and you start to understand why this rumor grabbed people's hearts. So when that all evaporates with this update, it's not just disappointment, it's grieving the loss of what could have been. And it's not just about talent on paper either, it's about identity. For a long time, the Steelers were known as a team that always had dogs at wide receiver. Tough, physical, technically sound, explosive players. The league feared the Steelers' passing game, not just their defense. Lately, that fear factor hasn't really been there in the same way. That's why the idea of DK Metcalf felt like more than just a trade. It felt like a statement. A statement that the Steelers were ready to swing big, to say, we're not just trying to sneak into the playoffs, we're trying to go and make noise in January and February. This sad update pulls that fantasy back down to earth. It says, at least for now, the Steelers are going to stay the course with a more conservative draft and develop approach. And I know for a lot of fans, after years of seeing the offense stagnate, that is just not the news you wanted to hear. Now let's address what this means practically. With DK Metcalf now effectively off the board, or at least priced into the stratosphere, the Steelers' options to dramatically upgrade this receiving core via a blockbuster name get slimmer. Are there other wideouts around the league who could be available? Possibly. Every year, somebody becomes unexpectedly disgruntled. Somebody wants a new deal, some team decides to reset. But in terms of that perfect blend of age, production, star power, and physical profile, there are not many DK Metcalfs walking around the NFL. So you're probably looking at one of three paths forward. One, you double down on what you already have. You put even more responsibility on George Pickens to become that true alpha WR1. You hope for a leap from your younger receivers, and you maybe bring in a second-tier veteran to stabilize the room. Two, you look to the draft again. The latest information from around the league makes it clear the price is too high, the timing isn't right, and the Steelers are not going to cross that line into a blockbuster move that doesn't fit their long-standing philosophy. It's a gut punch if you let yourself believe. It's a sad update for a fan base that craves offensive star power, and it leaves a lot of what-ifs hanging in the air. What if they'd gone for it? What if they'd rolled the dice? What if DK really had become the next great wide receiver to wear black and gold? We're never going to know that answer now, at least not in the immediate future. And that's why Steelers Nation is stunned, and why so many of you feel like something special just slipped through your fingers before it ever had a chance to be real. Now the only thing left to do is watch how this team responds, how this front office builds with the resources they kept, and whether a year or two from now, we're looking back on this moment saying, thank God we didn't panic, or, man, that was the move that could have changed everything. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments how you're feeling about this DK Metcalf news. Are you furious with the Steelers for not going all in, or do you think they made the right call by holding on to their picks and their cap space? Would you have paid the price Seattle reportedly wanted? And who, if anyone, would you target next as a realistic option to upgrade this receiving core? I want to hear from Steelers fans, Seahawks fans, neutral fans, everybody. And if you want me to break down some other potential trade or draft targets that could fill even part of the role people were dreaming DK would fill, let me know that too, and we can dive into it in another video. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, drop a like if you found this breakdown helpful, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next big update, because in this league, the only constant is change. For now though, this has been a tough one. DK Metcalf will not be walking through that tunnel at Acrisure Stadium as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers anytime soon, and that's a reality a lot of fans are going to have to sit with. Thanks for watching, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.